Okay, guys, welcome back. So as you see here, we have the motherboard set up. Okay, and this is usually how I like to set it up. It's a little simple. I just kind of take the motherboard out, put it on top of its original packaging, and then I go to work. So the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to take this little hook here, push it down, and then back, and then just let it release, and it pulls back. And this is, you're going to remove this little plastic piece here. Sometimes it's going to be a little pain in the butt, but there's a little lever here. You just kind of pull it up and boom, comes right off. Okay, and then that, you can just remove that. That just protects where the processor is going. Then you're going to push this back, lift the cage. All right, and this is where your processor is going. I'll lift this up here so you guys can check it out. Right here is where you're going to house the processor. You're not going to want to touch any of this here. It's very delicate. One little touch and you could probably just say goodbye to the motherboard. The processor and where it is housed, very, very delicate. So you're going to want to be careful with that. So the next thing you're going to want to do is you could do a number of things at this point, because as I said, you only have so many pieces. But generally, I like to start off with the processor. So this is the processor chip. All right, it comes very well housed, protected. And when you open this up, you're going to want to do it very gently. As you can see here, I'm just kind of opening that. And then boom. And then it comes with two little spots here where you can just, see, I'll show you right there, where you can just grab it and pull it out gently. Okay. Now, the best way to tell how to put it into this spot here, okay, and I'm going to show you this right now. Once again, take a look. The processor has a little arrow on the lower left-hand side. From your angle, it's going to look like it's opposite that, but when you're looking at it from the right angle as to where it's going to go in, you see this little arrow right there? Let my camera adjust. See that little arrow? You're going to line that up with the lower left-hand side of the processor house, which is right there where my big finger is, right over there. And then you're going to want to place it very, very gently. So as you can see, I'm just going to put it down. And that's it. Simple as that. Nothing else further to do. You've just placed your processor. Gently fold down the cage, and this is where you might get a little scared for the first time. When you throw this hook down, as you start to get to the bottom, you're going to feel an intense amount of resistance. That is normal. You're going to push down and hook it underneath, and then that's it. You're all set. So now your processor is correctly housed where it's supposed to be, and you are good to go on that end. Now the next step is to place your fan. This is the fan that comes with the processor. It's a regular Intel fan. It's nothing special. And you know, for a computer like this, as I said, I don't recommend anything more than this fan. And as you can see here, the fan has a little power plug. This is going to go into the CPU portion of the motherboard. So that way when you power it up, the fan will spin. So we're going to place this. And just so you see, there are little holes around where the processor is. You can see one right there. Right there is one hole. Right down here is another hole. Right over here is another. And then you got one back up here. And that is where the fan hooks go. And I'll show you those right here. These little hooks right here on the bottom. You can see them. They're in white. Those are where the hooks are going to go. And it doesn't have to go in any particular position. And also, most Intel fans come with this gray material there. Now you see that, those three little stripes? That is called thermal paste. It assists you in keeping your processor cool along with the fan. And we're going to just line this up, put it right down, and pretty much it guides in and of itself. And then you're going to want to lift the motherboard a little bit. And you're going to hear a click sound when you push the hooks through. You hear that? So that when you hear that, you know that it's gone through. There's another one. Then I have two more here. And don't worry, I mean, you know, you don't force it. but give it a little firmness. Don't be afraid to set it in. You know, it's not going to break that easily unless you try to go Hulk smash on it. And then once you have that in, you can take your wire and you can plug in the fan. Very simply, it's right in the perfect position. And I'm sure you guys can see me. Yep, you guys can see me doing this. Plug it in. And boom. So now we have just placed our processor and our fan. Fan is plugged in and good to go. So the next step I would do at this point is I'll take my memory, which I showed you guys earlier. All right, and these right here, right next to the fan, right here, these are your motherboard channels. Now this micro ATX motherboard only comes with 2. So remember how I told you it maxes out at 16 gigabytes of RAM. So essentially, you could remove this down the road and replace it with 8 gigabyte module on each end, and then you get your max. So this is what we're going to set in next, and I'm going to turn it over actually so you guys can see this a little bit better. All right. So over here, you'll see that the modules come with little hooks. All right, so as you can see, I have this one over here open. Top one's open. And I'm going to set in my memory. And now that it's set, now same thing. You're going to give it a firm, but not overly forceful push. And then you're going to hear a click. There you go. So, believe it or not, we are not too far from being done here. The next step would be to mount this onto the case, install the hard drive, and then install the DVD-ROM, and then more or less, it's not too much to go after that. So as you can see, a very basic build. So we're going to cut the video here, and we're going to move to the next step. Also, guys, one final thing I want to show you real quick. I took this for granted because I just naturally do this all the time, but since I'm trying to actually teach here, I should be cautious. But after you put in the fan, there's these little things here on the sides, okay, of the fan, and you can see I'm looking at it with my screwdriver. All right, and basically you just got to turn these. Now on the Intel fans, it's very simple to look at this. There's just a little slot here, and then you turn it, and it locks in the fan. So I'm going to do that right now. Okay, I'm going to lock them in. That's 1, 2, 3, and 4. So now your fan is officially locked in, and now we will move on and mount this onto the case. Okay, so now we can see the inside of the computer case. I've already removed the side panels so we can get this motherboard mounted. Now the first thing you want to do when you get to this part is every motherboard comes with this little back panel, and basically this part goes in the very back portion down here. That I'm sure you can see it. I'm kind of pointing at it. This opening where I'm putting my fingers through. That way when you mount the motherboard, it slides right into its corresponding slots, fits in nice and snug. Now another thing we're going to show you, we're going to go in here, pardon me. I'm going to go in a little deeper, as deep as I can, because I'm running out of slack here with my camera. These are all the cables, and we'll get to that in a second. But you're going to see these little gold, like, prongs there. Got my finger right on it. And these are what you lay the motherboard on. And this prevents the motherboard from touching the metal here, which could actually blow it. What these little screws do is they line up on the back hole of the motherboard, which is the only portion that's protected from metal. It's got like a little layer there. You got to line it up perfectly and then screw it in nice and snug. Now, because this isn't micro ATX, I only need 4 screws to mount it. And then if it was a ATX motherboard, a full ATX, I would go further down and use some of the holes down here that you can see here. Right there. There we go. So, but so that's that. Then we have these cables. These are all the case cables. These right here would hook up these here that I'm holding would be for the top panel, giving me my audio, make the USB ports work. These bundle of wires here are for the power supply. So as you can see here, I got my 24-pin connector, which gives the motherboard power, and some other connectors that are going to be used to power up and hook up my hard drive and my DVD-ROM. Then you have these nice little cables here. These always give me a hard time because, as you can see, I have huge fingers. So these little micro babies go on the motherboard to give it some functions as well, you know, like turning it on and things of that nature. Very simple too, and I know a lot of you are wondering, well, how do you know where to put them? Well, the motherboard has writing on it. It'll tell you what connections go where, so it makes it very easy. And that's about it. So what we're going to do is we're going to move on, and we're going to mount the motherboard. And as soon as I get it mounted and hooked up, I will return to continue. Okay, so now you can see I have the motherboard mounted into the case. I haven't hooked up any wires yet. I just want to take you step by step here. So usually what I like to do next is I like to go ahead and install the hard drive and the CD-ROM. And we don't have a lot of light, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you where they go. I'm going to go ahead and put them in, and then I'll show you how they're implemented. But up here, right here where I'm looking at, that's where we're going to put the CD-ROM. And then on the bottom here, I pretty much have my choice of where I want to put the hard drive. So I will put it in the most convenient spot where I can tie up the wires and hook it up to the motherboard without having too much trouble. And we're going to do that next, and I will come back and show you what that looks like when it's done.